Well, welcome. Our theme. We continue with the theme of unstoppable because why not, right? That's what we're here. We're here to be unstoppable. And when I say unstoppable, I don't mean like constantly going, like a runaway train, but I mean unstoppable in that we know when we are not in faith anymore. We know, we can feel it. And so we can change our mind about it. We know what to do to get ourselves back into faith again. And so that's us being unstoppable. But this talk today in particular was inspired by this verse. I have set before you an open door. It is from the book of Revelation, which I don't know, I think most people would say it's either nobody wants to read it or it just doesn't make any sense. But I've always liked this because there was a vision that Christ had given to John, and he was talking about when we embody the Christ consciousness, right? When we're aligned with the divine within, things look different in our life. But when we're not embodying that consciousness, the higher consciousness, then things also look different, and that might look more like struggle and more like suffering and not knowing what's the next thing to do and trying to manipulate conditions in our life so we can be happy. But when we're aligned with the divine within us, there is before us an open door. And this open door is all possibilities. Anything that we're inspired to do, the inner resourcefulness and then the resources that will come to us because we're listening and we're acting in faith. That's what this open door means. But we're created in the image and likeness of our Creator. Like we know this, right? We're created in the image and likeness of our Creator. It's a spiritual likeness, not a physical likeness. And we're created to create as our Creator creates in the universal. We create in the package of our life. And the package of our life is our little universe, right? So we have our own little universe that we are creating. Now, this great Creator continues to seek to work through us because we're created to be creators, and it seeks to work through us, and it's all things, everything that's ever been, everything that's yet to be. So it's seeking to work through us. We're designed to expand the good. We're not designed to stay in struggle. We're designed actually to overcome struggle. And we know this because it feels terrible when we're in struggle mode because it's not aligned with who we really are. So we start acting in faith, we start feeling better because that's where our true alignment is with our true self. So we're here to expand the good, but sometimes we end up expanding or increasing another kind of experience. Maybe we increase in our lives the experience of heaviness or overwhelm, the feeling of lack, the feeling of hopelessness. Right, that's what we're expanding instead. Now, if we're created in the image and likeness of our Creator, like what exactly happens that we stop seeking to expand the good? What comes up in our lives that makes us so that we end up veering off into struggle and spiraling into like an abyss? Like what is it that comes up? And as I was thinking, I have a new gratitude journal that I'm working out of. And I decided in this gratitude journal, I'm also going to put my own prayers in this gratitude journal. And the reason I decided to do this is because I keep a prayer journal for anybody who asks for prayer. And I was going through the journal to see, just to check to see if I was done with that particular journal. But I pray over the whole journal. There are all these prayers in there. There's not one prayer from me asking for something for myself, right? I'm not asking for something for myself. And so today I'm going to talk about this one thing. Like if we get a handle on it, we can totally change up how we're showing up in our life. And that one thing is start asking for things. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how we don't ask for things, but then I'm going to also talk about an ancient creative process that we can use in our life. Okay, so we don't ask. Here's the thing here. We don't ask for stuff for ourselves in prayer, or we don't ask for what we really want. So sometimes when we are thinking about creating a new experience in our life, Or if we get inspired to do something, the first thing we'll ask ourselves is, do I have the resources to do this? Right? Do I have the time? Do I have the money? Do I have the manpower? Do I have the knowledge base? We'll ask if we have the resources to do something. Now, if we have to have all the resources in place before we do something, what that means is we're creating in our comfort zone. We're creating something we know we could do easily and with no problems. Now, when we're praying for something, really when we're going to pray, when we're going to ask the divine to step in and help us out, we don't even need to bother to ask for help if it's something small and in our comfort zone, because we've already done that. If it's in our comfort zone, we're already good at it, right? We want to create new experiences, so we also have to be asking for guidance. We have to ask for guidance and to be supported in creating whatever that new experience is. How about this prayer? I've heard this prayer a million times, and I've said it to myself. I used to say it to myself. I don't say it anymore. But how about this prayer? Tell me, just wave your hand at me if you've ever said this. Well, dear God, I just need this amount of money. That's all. Just the bare necessity. So I can pay this and this and this. You know, I'm not even asking for like $1 million. I just need just this and this to get by. Like, who has ever said that kind of prayer? Just give me enough, right? Just give me enough so I can get by, right? I'm not asking for the universe here. Just this much. Okay, so we're just not asking, okay? Now, maybe you are, but I'll tell you, like when I went through that prayer journal, and that prayer journal is probably 3 months old, not one thing in there. Not even a prayer in there for Lilu, my puppy. Yeah, I've been talking for years about how I want an Australian Shepherd puppy. I'm like, there's not even a prayer for her in here. Like, I still, things still worked out. Now, teacher Yeshua, you've seen this before. Teacher Yeshua, the Christ, he was walking around in community one day, and he was telling people, he was talking about entering the kingdom of God, which is heaven, the heaven within us, so that we can create heaven on earth. We enter the kingdom of God, so we act on faith, so we can do the next best thing, so we're creating heaven on earth. And then he goes on to say, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says how important it is for us to live in integrity. So do what we say we'll do, and don't do the things we say that we're not going to do. And don't do terrible things, and instead do kind things. Right? He says this is what we do. I think in these verses in particular, he was saying like, don't lie, don't kill people, stuff like that. Okay? But this is about staying in integrity with who we are. But then somebody asks this question. They say, well, that's all pretty hard. And if we can't do all that, how do we enter the kingdom of God? How do we do that? And this is when he says, well, he says with man, but I say mankind. He said, with mankind, this is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. From our human perspective, it can seem so hard to live in integrity with what we say we want to do and to stop doing the things that we decide we want to stop doing. That all can be really hard. And often when we're asking for help, when we're asking for support, when we're asking for answered prayers, the answer we really want back is, it'll be easy. You're not going to have to give up anything you don't want. And everything will work out for you forever for the rest of your days. Right? When we're praying and we're getting an answer to a prayer, we want it to all happen easily. We don't want to have to put in any effort. My prayer when I was younger was, please just help me lose weight naturally. Make me decide I don't want to eat a lot of food. Just make me. And when I didn't get that answer, I was like, I guess God doesn't want me to lose weight right now. With God, all things are possible. And what this means is that when we align with the divine within us, when we embody faith, right, that's when we can start doing these things that from our human perspective will seem impossible. But when we align and we're acting in faith, that's when we realize that things are possible. There are a lot of things that are possible to us because God is all things. And that means even the stuff we're asking for, that's an expression of God also. That's also divine substance being turned into something. Whether it's better health or, some new ideas to create something new in our lives. All right? So we're asking for the substance that creates all things to just create more in our life. So if we are not asking for what we want, if we're only asking for something small that we can manage, right, that's not going to turn our life upside down, not going to require that we have to give up things that we're not ready to give up, right? This is one of the things that will make it feel impossible to get the things that we want, to get the experiences that we want. Okay? So, we ask. We start asking for ourselves. Okay, when you're praying, ask for something for you first. Right? Don't keep pushing it off. Well, I would like such and such for so-and-so, and I would like such and such for so-and-so. Ask for something for you first. I'm just going to invite you to try that out this week. Right? In your prayers, ask for something that you want first. Ask so you can receive. Right? So that things start feeling possible. So that you start feeling like, okay, this is an open door. Why would I possibly think that the power that creates worlds, right? That power that created universes and puts galaxies into their spin, it can't do some little thing for me. Because if you put it in perspective of the entire universe, anything we possibly could want, anything, even the biggest thing you can imagine, it's still small to God. It's still just like everything else in creation, right? I heard to God, creating $1 million is the same as creating $1, because God's not judging anything. God's not saying one thing is more important than another. It's just creation. It's all just creating something in our lives. All of it. Just creation. And creation is creation. Okay, so we start asking. But it also helps to have a nice creative process to fall back on, right? A creative process is kind of like a little blueprint. Now, there are a lot of creative processes out there. Some of the most famous ones are from Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich. Ernest Holmes has a creative process, and there's still a bunch more out there. But I chose an even more ancient creative process because in this creative process, it talks again about asking, okay, asking. And here is this creative process. It's from Yeshua, again, there in the book of John. Now, this translation out of the Bible is a little different than our typical Bible. We won't see all of this translation in there. This actually came from the Aramaic, the language that Yeshua spoke. And so there was something left out in your typical Bible's translation. Okay, but here's the original translation. All things that you ask straightly, directly, from inside my name, you will be given. So far, you have not done this. So even 2,000 years ago, people were not great at asking for stuff for themselves. Ask without hidden motive and be surrounded by your answer. Be enveloped by what you desire, that your gladness be full. All right, so remember, we're not great at asking. I'm not great at asking. I'm not great. In fact, as my husband and my son will tell you, I will struggle with something and make a lot of noise and make a lot of, sounds. And they'll both be like, can I help you? No, I'm fine. I've got this. See? So I know I'm not great at asking. So let's break this down. All things that you ask straightly, directly from inside my name, you will be given. So asking straightly, directly from inside his name, he's talking about going into the Christ consciousness, the higher consciousness. We align with the divine within first, so that we're asking from a place of faith instead of our small self, our little me, which is, well, I want to ask for this, but I have to know how everything will work out, and I need the guarantee and the promise that we'll all be great. Right? That's where our little me is going to be asking, our ego self. So we align with the divine within first, so that we can receive even an idea or an action to take, a faith-based action, even though we don't know the next thing that will happen, right? We just trust and we act in faith. We trust and act in faith. Little builders over there. All right, so aligning within, this is very important, okay? Aligning with the divine within. And then we are asking, oh no, never mind. All things that you ask straightly, directly, asking. So we're back to asking. Are we coming right out and asking for what we want? Are we doing that? Are we asking for what we want? Or are we asking for what we think we can get? Are we asking for what we think we can manage? Right? Is that what we're asking for? Are we asking for something that we already know we're capable of creating? Are we asking for stuff that's already in our comfort zone? Is that what's happening? Are we asking for stuff that we know we could handle with no problems, that we don't need to be in faith? Now see, here's the thing about being the creative beings that we are. It's not the stuff that we get in our life that is really going to light our soul up. It's the acting in faith constantly, doing the next best thing, following divine direction, going into the unknown, right? Taking actions even if we don't know there's a guarantee. That's what lights our soul up. Right? When you finally get what you want, it's not having the what you want that has been so exciting. It's the process of getting there. Feeling divinely directed. Feeling what that feels like to be in faith and do that next best thing. Because then you know you create the experience you want, you get the thing you want, and then you want to do it again. Because it's the feeling of acting in faith and being divinely guided that is so amazing in what we are here to experience. Now, there's nothing wrong with being in our comfort zone sometimes, for sure. I am going to go home today and get in my daytime jammies, and I'm going to read, and I'm just going to be in my comfort zone the rest of the day. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. We don't have to be lit up and on fire 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But we always want to have one thing that we're working on that we don't know how it's all going to pan out. Okay? If we are looking at our dream and we're thinking our dream is too big and it's beyond our ability, and so we're asking for a smaller version of that, okay, we're not asking for what we really want. We're not asking straightly for what we want, and we're not aligned with the divine within if we're only asking for what we think we can get. So this is what Yeshua is saying. Ask straight. Ask for what you want, right? Don't try to, talk yourself out of something. Or don't try to put somebody else first. Just ask for it. Don't put limitations on it. Just ask for it. Don't try to work it out. Just ask for it. Yes? When we are asking, it's us here on this planet right now having an experience. And so it might be us worrying about things a little, right? It could be that. It could be us maybe having some anxiety about some things that are going on, right? And so that's the part of us that's asking. And we're putting it out to the universe so it can respond to us, okay? So then he says this. So far, you've not done this. So far, you've not done this. You're not doing this. I've set before you an open door. And behind that open door, on the other side of that open door, are all the possibilities. And sometimes, though, we treat our life like it's a restaurant, and we're sitting in this restaurant, and everybody around us is enjoying an amazing meal, and we're smelling it, and everything smells wonderful, and our stomach is growling, and yet we don't ask for a meal. We don't pick something off the menu. Right? This is what's happening a lot of times in our life when we're not asking for something. There's the possibilities, infinite possibilities before us but we're not asking. Okay, so asking is important because it helps us to set an intention. And this is another really fun thing. When we can set an intention for something we want, not something we think we have to settle for, something we desire, we create a wave of energy. Okay, and this wave of energy is what draws to us helpful people and helpful experiences and synchronicities that get us to the next thing that we're going to do. Okay, so you've come up with an idea for something, you don't know the next step, but you've asked, you feel excited about it, and then maybe you get a phone call. I've actually been guided to do the next best thing for myself because I listen to a lot of music. A song will just pop up like on my radio or whatever, and I'm just like, whoa. It was like, it's a synchronicity. There's like a message in the song. Okay, or you flip open a book. How often have you flipped open a book and you're like, that was just what I needed to read just this minute, right? Even a work of fiction, right? Just some book, it had something and it resonated with you because you were ready for that, because you asked, right? You put a request out there. We're swimming in a world of possibilities, so just pick something. Pick something. And it doesn't have to be a giant thing like I want to start a new business. You know, it could be a small thing. I want to sleep better. I want to remember to go out every morning and get some sunshine on my head. You know, I want to give up vegetables that wreak havoc on my system, even though I love those vegetables. And I want to eat the vegetables that are good for me, even though they're like, you know, I hate them. How can I do that? Right? No, there's a way. There's got to be a way to eat a vegetable that I can't stand, but my body loves it once it gets past here. Right? So ask. It doesn't have to be a giant thing. So often we think it's like, well, how can I solve world hunger? But that's not it. Sometimes maybe we just ask, what's the next best thing I can do for myself right now? I'm kind of confused about my life. So what's the next best thing I can do? Because that will create more opportunities for helpful people to cross your path, to have synchronistic experiences telling you the next best thing to do. Okay? Then we ask again. Here comes the asking again. Ask without hidden motive. Why are you asking for what you're asking? Right? Why did you just ask for that? There's a motive behind it. Now, if we're asking something that is truly a soul-inspired desire, like you were inspired to do something. You were inspired to maybe go drive out to Palm Springs for the day and enjoy some more sunshine and a little more heat than what we have here. Or maybe it was taking a trip or planning a trip, right? You got inspired for something and it's going to feel good. You will feel it like it's a soul-inspired desire. And by doing this thing, by following through on this, it will create more joy and goodness in your life. And when we create more joy and goodness in our life, it goes out there to other people. It goes out to people around us. Okay, so that's a soul-inspired desire, creates that wave of energy. So we experience more synchronicities. We experience more helpful people, more helpful experiences. But if we want to create something because we want to get something out of it to make us feel better about ourselves. You know, like I used to want to be a rock star because I wanted people to worship me. Like I wanted people to be like, look at that Deanna, she's just like Stevie Nicks over there. Right? Deanna Joseph, woo! Because I wanted to be loved. Right? Why was I asking for that? Okay, that's why. Now I create music from a whole different place. And I can feel the difference between me in, we'll say, the 80s and the 90s and me now. Like now what's happening feels soul-inspired. But see, if we're asking for something out there to make us happy, that's a limitation kind of request. We're asking for something that's too small. Right? That's coming from limitation. Well, I want this so I can be happy. I want this so I can feel approved of and loved and worshiped because that'll make me feel worthy and happy. But then we have to keep getting that all the time to feel good about ourselves. A soul-inspired desire, we feel good from within because we're aligned with the divine within us. Okay, so we don't want to ask from a mindset limitation, because we're not going to create that wave of energy and synchronicity and good experiences, right? We want to ask and act on what is coming from our soul. Ask without hidden motive. I used to know somebody who would pray that this woman she knew would divorce her husband so she could have the husband. Okay, that's hidden motive. That's hidden motive. This is what I want, and that's it. Right? There's no expansive response the universe can give to that. Right? Somebody even better. Somebody that's a better match. Or maybe the feeling within her that that she's more whole within her. I don't know. Okay, so we ask without hidden motive. And then this part, this is kind of fun. And then be surrounded by your answer, be enveloped by what you desire. When we are enveloped by what we desire, it just means we're thinking about it a lot. We're thinking about it. We're daydreaming about it. We're imagining it. We're looking around our life, the package of our life, to see how it will fit in, right? That's to be enveloped by it. And this activates our brain's reticular activating system, which this is where we get the how, right? Like when we get an inspired direction to take or inspired idea, maybe we don't know how it's going to all pan out, right? So it's here, our brain's reticular activating system, it's what gives us something to focus on. And so, for example, and I've told this story before, but years and years ago, we were looking for a house to rent. We would drive around the neighborhoods that we wanted to live in. We'd look for rent signs. And pretty soon, we started seeing for rent signs everywhere, right? Because our brain had been activated, had been given a command. It was given a command. And so even when we found our house and we moved, one day my daughter and I were driving around and she says, "Mom, I just can't stop seeing the for rent signs." Because we hadn't given our brain a new command. We'd see for rent signs and we'd look, right? So as far as our brain was thinking, we're still looking for rent signs. So I asked her to pick out something to focus on to give our brain a new command. She picked out palm trees. And I was that day years old when I learned that there were many different kinds of palm trees. I thought there was one palm tree. But they were in various stages of growth. But there's a bunch of different kinds. So our brain's reticular activating system, when we are enveloped by what we desire, we're thinking about how it will fit in our life or how we will feel, okay, the experience that we'll have. Our brain is like, oh, okay, and it starts looking for the solutions to that. Reticular activating system, RAS. It's in the brain. It's in the brain, but we see it and we focus on it. And so I know one time we did this game at my son's school, actually, at a mini course, and I just told everybody. I told two groups of students, and they didn't tell each other what it was, but I told one group to look for the number 222, and another group to look for 444 or something like that. And they had their homework, and they're like, "Well, that's weird. I never see those numbers." But I'm like, "Well, spend the week looking for those numbers." And they all came back the next week, and they were just like, "I never realized how many 222s were out there or how many 444s, right? Because they gave their brain a command. So their brain went looking for those numbers. Now, because God is all things, a possible solution to something we're looking for is held somewhere in our environment. So when we are looking to a solution for feeling better, when I started looking for the solution to better digestive health, right, I was thinking about that, better digestive health. What's the nice things I can do for my body's digestion? All of a sudden, it's like all these things start popping up everywhere. And like some things I didn't like too much, like, coffee, maybe not so good for your digestives, too acidic, right? So all of a sudden, I'm having things pop up. God is all things. That means everything in our environment is a potential channel for a solution to present itself. Like one new thing to do next. Okay, so this is the power of being surrounded by our answer, being enveloped by what we desire. So we think about what we're desiring and how we would love when it's in our life. Now, I told you before that I had a little struggle with that when I was visualizing getting my Australian Shepherd puppy. And so I had to just kind of stop actually focusing on her and instead focusing on something else that was still made me really happy. But I ran across this again last week, and I had totally forgotten about this. But Greg Braden talks about a heart-brain coherence technique to help us when we're struggling with something. So when we really, sometimes it is hard because it's like, I need this to happen now. I need to feel better now. I need the situation to fix itself now, right? And so if we get in that kind of situation, the heart-brain coherence technique is just to put your hand on your heart. Taylor has us do this all the time in meditation. Put your hand on your heart and deep breathe, nice and slow. And you focus on the heart like you're breathing through the heart, right? Yeah. Now you slow down your breathing. You're connected to your heart here. Your mind and your heart go into coherence, which is connection, right? Because the brain wants to boss the heart around, and it knows the heart can boss it around. And so the brain, it's got a thing, right? It's got a little chip on its shoulder. So we do this breathing technique. When we start breathing nice and slow and nice and deep, our brain thinks, oh, okay, everything's all right now. She's breathing just fine. She's not all panicky now. Okay, so that is something that we can do. Go into the reticular, or go into that heart-brain coherence. All right, so we are surrounded by our answer. And then, that your gladness be full. That your gladness be full. This is having gratitude and happiness like it's already happened. Like it's already happened. And so the power of having gratitude or appreciating something as if it's already happened, even if it hasn't, what happens is that, you know how we'll have mind chatter sometimes, negative chatter? It's like, well, I want to plan a trip and go to Europe. Oh, do you really think you could do that? That's a lot of money. Do you really want to travel right now? You just got a new puppy, right? You don't want to leave her. And so there's all this negative chatter that goes off in our head. I don't really want to go to Europe. I don't know why I said that. But we do have negative chatter. But if you're giving thanks for something as if it's already happened, the little me, right, our little part of us that wants to come in and be negative about it, it thinks it already happened, so it cuts down on the negative chatter. Okay, I noticed this when I had to have a conversation with someone once. This was a while back, but it was a conversation I didn't want to have, but I had to have it. And I gave thanks that everything worked out. We had a great conversation. And that little voice wasn't telling me that anymore. Oh God, you know how you hate confrontation, right? That's what it was saying. So I gave thanks as if it had already happened. I didn't have that mind chatter anymore. Okay, so we ask, and we ask for what we really want. There's no settling, right? No thinking small. You're not here to play it small. Then we receive guidance. We receive instruction on the next thing to do. But then we give. Now, teacher Yeshua did not put giving in his creative process, but he talks about giving all the time. But the other new thought leaders who do have their own creative process, they talk about giving back. We give back because you don't just get something for nothing in this life, right? We're giving. So I like what Napoleon Hill says. Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, he says when you're asking for something from the universe, when you're wanting to create a new experience in your life, what do you intend to give back? Like when this starts happening and you're acting and you're in the flow and good things are coming through you, for you, as you, what do you intend to give back? So he says that. Determine exactly what you intend to give in return. There's no such reality as something for nothing. And what he's talking about here really is the idea of radical generosity in this life that we are living, right? To give outside of our comfort zone. We're already giving things in our life every day. We're giving our time. We're giving our talents. We're giving our treasures. We're already giving something. So when we're asking Spirit to move in our lives and we're acting in faith on the guidance we're receiving, now's the time we act in radical generosity. We give just a little more, right? Maybe we give a little more of our time, right? We give a little more of our talents. We reach out to somebody and offer to help, to do something. Okay, so we just give a little more out of our comfort zone. What happens is we're demonstrating to the universe that we are really serious about being creators in our lives. We are serious. Like, we have every intention of doing this thing. We are interested in expanding our good. Yes? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. And what makes this so powerful is that when we give from our heart, right? We give. We're not being manipulated. We're not giving out of a sense of obligation. When we are giving from our heart, we've just sent imagine we're all energy, right? We're all energy. And so what happens is, and this is just for the sake of imagining something. Imagine you have a ball of energy that's this big, and imagine it's green color, okay? When you radically give from your heart, you send out that ball of energy to somebody. Now what you've done is you've created an empty space right here, okay, of that energy. It's gone now. You sent out that loving, positive, giving, generous energy. Now this space has to be filled with something exactly like that exact frequency, that exact vibration. Does that make sense? Yeah? No, it doesn't make, yeah? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Taylor. Yeah.
That's one of the hermetic principles, the law of correspondence, and physics realm. That's also called quantum entanglement. So when there's something happening, you let go of the idea of space and time separating them from happening, and we're all the same time.
I like the for every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. Okay. For every action, I threw out a ball of generosity. The equal opposite reaction is somebody throws a ball back at me of that same quality of generosity. Does that make sense? Yeah, so we want to also be giving as we're going through all this. So we ask, we receive, and then we practice radically giving, okay, of ourselves out into our lives. So now we have our call to action for this week. Let's look at our affirmation. With God, all things are possible. I can go anywhere from here. Let's say that together. With God, all things are possible. I can go anywhere from here. Now, I added that. Everybody's heard that phrase, with God, all things are possible. Like, we say that, all the time. But I can go anywhere from here. I added that in because so often we think, well, I wish I would have started this 20 years ago. Well, I wish I never would have done this thing, 15 years ago. And so now I can't do the thing I really want to do. It's just too late. When we're aligned with the divine within, okay, remember, all things are possible with God, and before us is an open door. All possibilities. So we can go anywhere from here, from where we are right now. Where we stand is always sacred ground, and we can always go anywhere. We can always step through that open door from right where we are, right here and now. But we align in faith first, right? We align with the divine within us. This is from Jeremiah. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not harm you, plans to give you hope and a good future. We're not here to struggle, right? We're here to overcome. We're here to walk in faith and have the experience of the higher forces coming to work for our benefit, right? We're here to have that experience of calling forth the higher forces that are waiting to work through us, for us, as us, right? We're designed to expand the good. So here's our call to action this week. I invite you all to participate with me on this. I started writing this down last week. I started writing down something I'm asking for every day. What do I want to ask for today? Do I want to show up and like be real productive? Do I want to do this, right? I just ask for something every day. So what are you asking for? Or are you asking for a little more guidance on some well-being, a return to wholeness, creating something in your life? What are you asking for, and are you playing it small? Are you settling? And then what are you giving back? Right? So what are you putting out there? What are you putting out there? Before you is an open door. Okay, remember that. Like, that's my mantra. That's been my mantra all week. Before me is an open door. Why am I settling? Why am I limiting myself? Before me is an open door. So we ask, we reach, we aspire. Right? No matter what is going on starting right now. Don't even worry about yesterday or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Starting right now, we can go anywhere from here. Ask for what you really want. No limits. No limits on it. Don't worry about your resources. Don't worry about manpower. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about your knowledge base. If none of that was a concern, what would you ask for? If none of that you had to worry about, if you didn't have to worry that you had to know how to do it, what would you ask for? Once upon a time, this was all nothingness, right? This was all nothingness. And the creator of all things made an intention, let there be light. And all of a sudden there was light, and there was a universe, and there were stars, and there were planets, and there were galaxies, and there were solar systems. And then we've got this beautiful planet. And yeah, I know there's some crazy stuff happening on this planet, but really there's a lot of magnificence around us. All of this is magnificent, right? And when you go out into a cosmic level and can look and see the galaxies, see the planets, this is magnificent. And I cannot even imagine the creator of all things saying, well, I think I could manage that. I don't know. I can't even imagine that it was thinking small, that this is a small version of what it really wanted to create. Right? This is pure magnificence. All of this. So we ask, what are you really asking for? What are you asking for? Because what we're asking for, when we're aligned with the divine within us, this is how we are creating heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are designed to do all this. There is the open door before you. It is always open before you. And when we align with the divine within, that's when we see that door. That's when we know all the possibilities that are available to us. In everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is. Thank you.